The wallet that saved my life. What would you do if a stranger with a knife demanded your wallet? For me, that moment didn't just end with relief, it opened the door to a mystery I'll never forget. It was a bitterly cold January evening, the kind where every breath you take feels like shards of ice in your lungs. The streets were quiet, the soft crunch of my boots on the snow the only sound accompanying me as I made my way home after an exhausting day at work. I had been running on fumes, meetings all day, a missed lunch, and the thought of an empty fridge waiting for me at home. My thoughts were scattered. Should I just order pizza again? Did I leave the heat on this morning? Did I remember to call Mom back? And then I saw him. A man stepped out of the shadows, his hood pulled low over his face, and my gut instinct screamed trouble. Before I could even process what was happening, he was in front of me, blocking my path. In his hand was a knife, gleaming faintly under the dim streetlight. "Give me your wallet," he barked, his voice rough and desperate. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. My hands trembled as I reached into my coat pocket, fumbling for my wallet. As I handed it over, all I could think was, this is it. Just give him what he wants and walk away. But then something changed. The man took my wallet, opened it hastily, and froze. His entire demeanor shifted in an instant. He stared at the open wallet, his brows furrowing deeply. His hands, which had been steady and threatening just moments ago, began to shake. "No, wait, this can't be real," he muttered, his voice cracking. Confused and terrified, I blurted out, What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a photo tucked inside the wallet, a crumpled picture of a boy in a Spider-Man costume. My nephew, Alex. Where did you get this?" the man demanded, his eyes wide and filled with something I couldn't quite place, fear, shock. "It's just a picture of my nephew," I stammered. The man's grip on the knife slackened and he stumbled back a step, his face pale. Tears started to well up in his eyes as he whispered, "That's my son. That's my boy. I left him years ago," he continued, his voice trembling. "I made the worst mistake of my life. I thought I'd never see him again, and now here he is. How do you have this picture?" I was stunned. My fear began to morph into confusion. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my voice shaking. "This is a picture my sister gave me. It's her son." The man wiped his eyes with his sleeve, his knife now forgotten in his other hand. No, that's impossible. That's Jeremy. I'd recognize that smile anywhere. It's him." For a moment, we stood there in the freezing night, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I didn't know whether to feel relieved, terrified, or deeply unsettled. Finally, he handed the wallet back to me, his hands still shaking. I can't do this," he muttered. Without another word, he turned and stumbled away into the darkness, leaving me standing there, clutching my wallet as if it were a lifeline. When I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. My hands were still trembling as I pulled out the photo. The little boy in the picture, was it possible? Could the stranger have been telling the truth? I called my sister immediately. "Hey, you remember that photo of Alex in the Spider-Man costume? The one you put in my wallet?" She laughed. "Oh, that's not Alex," she said casually. "That's a kid from a costume party we went to years ago. I must have mixed up the photos." I was floored. The photo wasn't even of my nephew. So why did that man think it was his son? The following days were surreal. I couldn't shake the encounter from my mind. Who was that man? What had led him to believe that photo was of his son? And most hauntingly, where was his son now?